That was an excellent episode of Survivor. Wow, that was the best episode of the season, easily for me. At least for the first reaction. Boom. Loved it. Wow, that was a joy. That was a joy to watch. A lot of great stuff from so many of the players, too. I just loved, first of all, Lindsay and Jonathan with the showdown as the only two competing because of the do or die twist in the immunity challenge. This is more like how I expected it to go the first time. If you go back and watch my Survivor 41 reaction to the episode they did this on, I said, like, wow, I'm surprised that many people actually competed because there was quite a bit more in that season. And because, I would have had a similar thought process as to most of them, where it's like, maybe it's because there was such a figure as Jonathan to where it scared them. And logically, being results oriented, you would say it was a bad move for Lindsay to compete in that challenge because she did lose. So, and otherwise she would have been fine. But I guess being more results oriented, she does become safe because of do or die. So, but there was a chance at that point. But ultimately, if Lindsay didn't compete, Jonathan would have gotten instant immunity. So she wanted to do the warrior move, as they called it, and go up against him. That was just an epic battle too. The way they edited that was really well done. And then ultimately Jonathan wins immunity, which I think a lot of the things led to the more interesting outcomes this episode. Jonathan winning immunity, I think, led to a much more interesting vote. And then Lindsay being safe led to a much more interesting outcome because we got to see, I was so scared that we were going to go through all that and then just have Lindsay die and then not see the fruits of any of it. But she doesn't, and so we get to see literally. I was terrified because Mike, they showed Mike rallying the troops for Drea. And I mean, Omar talked before about how, well, he's not going to get his way. And then, like, they showed him going one by one through them. And, like, Omar was still yet to be seen. So I'm like, here we go. They're gonna show Mike, like, oh, I got them all. Vote Drea. And then we'll cue Omer. I keep saying it wrong. It's Omer. And he'll be like, yeah, that's not going to happen. This is what's actually going to happen. But the truth of the matter was that Omer had the control of the game yet again. Also, Lindsay played a part as well, but Omer was still kind of the head honcho at the end of the day. And he decided literally how the vote would go. He laid it out there. He was like, well, Drea just told me about her advantage, the knowledge is power advantage. I could let her do it and take Mike's idol in that way. Or I could tell Mike about the advantage and have him give me the idol so that we can then blindside Drea. We could also have Mike give us his idol and still vote him out so we get both of the advantages out of the way. As it was playing out in my head, I had such a big smile on my face when I saw that Mike said no to the question. But then I was like, oh, but I could still go the wrong way. But then as I was thinking it through, I was like, I don't think so, though. I don't think he would vote out Mike in this moment because, first of all, I think Mike would be like, might hold a grudge for that sort of thing, but maybe not considering the reaction in this episode, everybody with all the camaraderie. And second of all, you'd have to deal with Drea after the fact, after just wasting her advantage, and then she'd have to come back with you. I think that's the bigger thing, to have to deal with that and still have all the advantages in there. Also, on top of that, Lindsay's going to prefer, and since Omer does take Lindsay's opinion heavily into consideration, she would much prefer Drea to go as well so that she can be the benefactor of that amulet. So now Omer has the idol, and Lindsay now has an idol because of the amulet. Does Omer give it back to Mike as soon as they get back to camp? I don't know. Probably. In a situation like this, when they go back so quickly, I tend to think so, because it's like, you can't be slick about it. You'd have to keep up. You'd have to betray Mike by not giving it back and then like live the rest of the day out. It's not like right at tribal. You don't have to worry about it. You'd have to go back to camp and be like, yeah, I'm not giving your idol back, and then have to deal with that weirdness from then on out until the next vote. And I don't know, but that's made for a much more interesting endgame, I think. Having, now there's 2 idols in play, final 6. Jonathan's still there, Mike's still there, Omer's still there. Lindsay, Marianne, Romeo. So there's some like real killers in here of really interesting ways it could go. And we're getting closer and closer to that fire making challenge. And I'm assuming Final 5 is the last place you can use the idol in this game, in this season as well. So that could get hairy if 2 idols make it that far. And then it was just a lot of fun. They were all having laughs. Drea was laughing, and they were all joking around as she was voted out. I don't like to see that every time. Jeff said that's the ideal way for the game to be played in his eyes, is that it's just a game. So everyone's enjoying it and appreciating the moves as such. And I think that is fun sometimes, but also you like to see the deeply like betrayed reactions as well, because that's really the good meat of Survivor as well. I love seeing good sportsmanship like this and like Kai last week, but I also, I want to see a bitter person every now and then who's just like utterly betrayed and gives a death stare back at them. There's something to be admired about that as well. But there was so much great stuff here. This is great Survivor. Like, you saw Jonathan and Drea grating on each other early on, both getting on each other's last nerves with their respective attitudes. And then Jonathan's talking about how he's eating the same as people half his weight, so he's struggling in that regard. I liked Mike putting up the act in the beginning, because I bought a hook, line, and sinker. I'm like, we're riding this 5 to the end, huh? And then he's like, this is just a front for Drea, actually. I want Drea out next. I'm like, okay then. But yeah, Lindsay stays in the same exact fashion as Deshawn did last time, where she picked a box and then she did not swap. Even though I still struggle with wrapping my head around it. There's some some scientific thing where you have better odds if you do switch every time. But both times now, it's worked out in their favor to not do that method. So I'm like, I don't know how much credence I'm even going to give to that method, Maybe you don't swap every time. Maybe you just kind of feel how you feel. I still can't wrap my head around how the odds are any better to switch. It's still the same 1 in 3 initial odds, right? Because he's going to reveal the skull regardless. And I don't know. Someone explain that to me. But what a fun episode. And it helps that, I got to see Jonathan last another episode and Mike last another episode. And Omar. Now, these are all great guys. Seeing Omar's name in the preview is actually really interesting, Like, will people actually take a swing at Omar? That seems like so hard to do right now. He's so well insulated. And now, especially with Mike and Jonathan still in the game, I just don't know how that happens. And Jonathan just mentioned that the 4 people in that tribe, I forget the name of that tribe is again, the Taku 4, they're still intact in the final 6, but he's like, but now it's about to end. But that's really interesting. So maybe there could be something there. But maybe something with Jonathan and Lindsay banding together, but she still wants Jonathan out first, so I think Omar and Lindsay might even ride it to the end at this point. So I just don't see people turning towards Omar at this point even. But who knows? I'm really excited to see how it turns out, because I think it'll be fun to watch regardless. I'd love to see Mike make it to the end, but really Omar does deserve the win, if he makes it to the end. Because even last vote, Mike talked in the beginning of this episode as if, he's basically claiming High's vote out as his own. He thinks that was like his plan from the beginning, like he orchestrated that. When that really goes to Omar. And then in this episode, he owes his life to Omar, that he spun it that way, But yeah, I'd also be here for an epic storyline where somehow Omar does this and Mike stays in the game, but the next vote Mike orchestrates it against Omar somehow. That would be kind of an epic subversion of expectations there. I just don't see it happening, because I think Omar does hold more of the cards ultimately. But I'm here for it regardless. If Omar makes it to the end, it's well deserved. Either way, I'm happy to see that outcome. I think it's really Omar versus Mike at this point for the win. There's like an outside shot for like a Lindsay maybe, but I don't see it happening, especially since there's a final 3. So likely you'll have you would think you'd have either Omar or at least Omar or Mike in the final 3 as well. So I think the votes would gravitate towards them. But yeah, excellent episode of Survivor. Wow. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you enjoyed this episode or this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell, and like the video. Click the links in the description for all our social media and to leave any feedback for us. And check out every week right now, we're going through Survivor Guatemala. We've also going through all the previous seasons before that with my friend Alec. So for all you old school Survivor fans, if you want to see him as a new Survivor fan working through them for the first time with me, and you get to watch actual highlights of his reactions to each episode, that's a great spot for you as well. I'm welcoming all Survivor fans for sure. So check out Survivor Guatemala episode 2. Which was out recently on this channel. Okay. Until next time. All right.